This is fantasy land. We're talking about ending the war. My God, we're just starting a war right today. There was a vote in the Senate today. Joe Lieberman, who authored the Iraq resolution, has authored another resolution, and it is essentially a fig leaf to let George Bush go to war with Iran. And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it. You're not going to get another shot at this, because what's happened, if this war ensues, we invade, and they're looking for an excuse to do it. And Obama was not even there to vote.
Senator Clint, I want to give you a chance to respond.
You get the sense that the country is desperate for someone to show us the way. Not the old way, not the same way, but a new way.
Everybody on this stage, we are all united, Wolf. We all believe that we need to try to end this war. In 2 nights, you're going to have the Republican candidates here. They all support the war. They all support the president. They all supported the escalation. Each of us is trying in our own way to bring the war to an end.
Well, let's face it. I mean, all of the college Democrats, you know, we're still behind just winning a Democrat in 2008. If you look at all the Republican candidates, I mean, the Democrats are such a diverse group, and all the Republican candidates, every one of them has said that they would commute Scooter Libby. They said that, you know, they would stay in Iraq and turn it into the next Korea.
Will you pledge that by January 2013, the end of your first term, more than 5 years from now, there will be no U.S. troops in Iraq?
I don't want to make promises not knowing what the situation is going to be 3 or 4 years out.
I agree with Barack. It is very difficult to know what we're going to be inheriting.
I cannot make that commitment.
Think about this for a minute. What if we pulled all of our troops out of South Korea? They've been there for 50 years, tens of thousands of them. What if we quit worrying about Iran and instead realized that its having a nuclear weapon isn't the end of the world? What if we pulled all our troops out of Iraq, brought them all home? What if we realistically addressed the debt and paid attention to the huge burden we're placing on generations to come? Guess whose ideas these are? And you hardly ever hear his name. This is Republican candidate Ron Paul.
Congressman Paul, you voted against the war. Why are all your fellow Republicans up here wrong?
That's a very good question, and you might ask the question, why are 70% of the American people now wanting us out of there?
Let's start with Laura Elizabeth Morales. You go ahead and give us your thoughts. Who's going to be the Republican nominee if you had to be a betting woman this morning?
Sure. If I had to be a betting woman and I had to be idealistic, I'd really like to see Ron Paul get the nomination for the Republican Party.
Whoa! But it brings me to the other question. Is there any likely, let's say,
what are you trying to say?
Top-tier GOP candidate? Because if I was a betting woman, I'd say Ron Paul doesn't have a chance, unfortunately, for you.
What's success for you in this campaign?
What's success? Well, to win is one is the goal.
That's not going to
You know, absolutely. You want to bet your every cent in your pocket for that?
Yes.
You are. Okay.
You're basically saying that we should take our marching orders from Al-Qaeda. If they want us off the Arabian Peninsula, we should leave?
No! I'm saying we should take our marching orders from our Constitution. We should not go to war. We should not go to war without a declaration. We should not go to war when it's an aggressive war. This is an aggressive invasion. We've committed the invasion of this war, and it's illegal under international law. That's where I take my marching orders, not from any enemy.
Over this way.
Paul has raised as much money as McCain now, and they don't know what Ron Paul is going to do with that money, because he's not going to get the nomination.
I like Ron Paul, and I'm not a Republican Democrat. I just happen to like his message.
Guy Ron Paul, who has no chance of winning it, and therefore he was very honest, and he's my new hero.
#1 fundraiser from military personnel. Congressman Ron Paul of the 14th Congressional District of Texas.
32% sending in money to Ron Paul, 22% for John McCain.
Paul, this Republican presidential candidate, raising within 24 hours $4.2 million. It's an amazing sum of money. I don't remember someone doing that out on the campaign trail. What do you make of this?
Well, and the source of the money is to me what's interesting. He got it from 35,000 small, comparatively small contributors. And once again, we got this huge outpouring of support. It's unlike the support that I get on the email, through the email of any of the other presidential candidates. But I wonder if this ability to raise this kind of money in this shorter period of time, and the fact that we're sitting here now talking about it for the third or fourth time this afternoon, might be the launching pad that he's been looking for.
Why are we determined to follow a foreign policy of empire building and preemption which is unbecoming of a constitutional republic? It's important to recall that the left in 2003 offered little opposition to the preemptive war in Iraq, and many are now not willing to stop it by defunding it or work to prevent an attack on Iran. The catch-all phrase, the war on terrorism, in all honesty, has no more meaning than if one wants to wage a war against criminal gangsterism. Terrorism is a tactic. You can't have a war against a tactic. It's deliberately vague and non-definable in order to justify and permit perpetual war anywhere and under any circumstances. Don't forget, the Iraqis and Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with any terrorist attack against us, including that on 9/11. Special interests and the demented philosophy of conquest have driven most wars throughout all of history. Rarely has the cause of liberty, as it was in our own revolution, been the driving force. In recent decades, our policies have been driven by neoconservative empire radicalism, profiteering in the military-industrial complex, misplaced do-good internationalism, mercantilistic notions regarding the need to control natural resources, and blind loyalty to various governments in the Middle East. For all the misinformation given the American people to justify our invasion, such as our need for national security, enforcing UN resolutions, removing a dictator, establishing a democracy, protecting our oil, the argument has been reduced to this: if we leave now, Iraq will be left in a mess, implying the implausible that if we stay, it won't be a mess. Since it could go badly when we leave, that blame must be placed on those who took us there, not on those of us who now insist that Americans no longer need be killed or maimed, and that Americans no longer need to kill any more Iraqis. We've had enough of both.